until someone, by the Spirit of God, says to them, what happened in this situation? What went on with your father? What took place in that circumstance? And by the Spirit of God, it was revealed. Tonight, as I speak to you, the Holy Spirit is going to bring to your mind things that need to be dealt with. He's going to heal in your heart. Now, what God has already healed and what's already done, we do not want to drag up again. It's done. It's over. If you're healed and it's over, we go on. But there's some people that have not dealt with things. And so I'm speaking to those of you here, but I'm also speaking to people that you are going to minister to by the Holy Spirit outside these walls. Some of you have family members that you know their suicidal tendencies are the result of a wounded place in their heart. You know things that have gone on in their life on the outside. That's not the main problem. It's an inside problem. And God is going to use you to minister to these people. Will y'all agree with me for that? Whether it's email, phone, in person, it could be a neighbor, it could be a family member, it could be a friend or a co-worker you're going to encounter. You see, we've taught you when someone expresses a pain in their body or something they're suffering from physically, to be quick to step up and say, I'll pray for you, and then to move and respond on that. But often when people do other things, folks haven't been as quick to respond and recognize what the issue is. And we need to understand this word here. The opening thing Jesus spoke of was about the good news to the poor, to heal the brokenhearted. What happened in the fall of man was it opened the door for hearts to be broken. This is the spirit of a man. I think about so many different areas of disappointments, rejection, abandonment, divorce, losses that come, sometimes loss of a job, but more serious, the loss of a loved one, neglect, being forgotten, being mistreated. And people live with those things with a wounded spirit that's come by words that someone has spoken, by actions that have been taken, or by experiences that may have been related to nature or just events that took place, whether it was a war, a climatic change, some type of weather destruction, and it left a trauma inside of their spirit. One of the stories in the Bible we remember of someone who went through many things that could have wounded his spirit, but he overcame them, is Joseph. Sold by his brothers, and they really wanted to kill him, but they could make more money by selling him alive. So he was sold by family members. Very few people in America right now have ever faced that. We know human trafficking and human slavery is an issue worldwide, but most of you have not experienced that personally, and it's hard to even fathom it. People that you grew up with selling you into another country. That's happening right now worldwide. Joseph was sold, and then he was slandered. He was lied about, something he did not do. In fact, it was the exact opposite. He had kept his integrity, he had kept his purity, and that was the very thing he was accused of. So here we have accusation or slander, his name, his character, slandered in a way that he had no recourse. He's a young teenager, possibly a young man in his 20s. By this time, he served in Potiphar's house for a period of time. And he's accused by Potiphar's wife. So here he's dealing with the whole thing of self-image, who he is in a foreign land. And then he's placed in prison. So now he's got a prison record. If you think prisons are bad now, think about prisons 3,500 years ago in Egypt. Being in a place that we would say is a dungeon. And in that place, he interpreted dreams for the butler and the baker of Pharaoh. And when the butler was lifted up to be restored to the Pharaoh, he said, "Remember me." And the butler forgot him. So when you look at it, Joseph is a picture of almost everything that could be in the broken heart of being sold by his family, which means rejection. All that happens in people being rejected in one way or another by some family member, then slandered, lied about, then in one of the most oppressive places of the world, illegally, unlawfully, unrighteously, he's there. And then being forgotten when he should have been remembered for something that he did that was good in every case. He was a blessing to his brothers. He was a blessing to Potiphar's house. He was a blessing in the prison. He was a blessing to the butler. And then that day came when he was raised up and interpreted Pharaoh's dream, and he was put in the place of prime minister of Egypt. The important point that I want to speak on this, and some of you that are reading through the Bible in our Bible reading plan, you've read this in the last few days, is that when Joseph was put in that place, overseeing gathering the grain of Egypt for 7 good years and then distributing it during the 7 bad years of famine, during that time frame, Joseph had 2 children. Does anybody remember their names? All right, Manasseh and Ephraim, or Ephraim, however you want to say it. Do you know what their names mean? Manasseh, the very name and why I named him that was, God caused me to forget all the affliction and oppression that I've gone through. And then Ephraim means God has caused me to prosper and be fruitful in the land where I was afflicted. Can we rejoice in Ephraim and Manasseh? Yeah. Next time, let's thank God for that. This is the power of the healing of the broken heart, is that God can cause you to forget what's happened in the past so there's no more pain there. In other words, all that was broken and that part of being hurt and wounded over it, it can be forgotten. And wherever you are today, no matter what's taken place, God can make you fruitful and bless you beyond imagination. I say to you, it's time to forget, and it's time to go on to the blessing and the fruitfulness God has for you. How many of you that's already happened in your life? You just wave your hand. You've gone through some affliction, some rejection, some abandonment, and yet God's enabled you to forget it. When you have it brought up, it's like, man, I don't even hardly remember that anymore. It's over. It's done with. And even at times, hearing things like this preached about, you're saying, you know what? I'm past that. Thank God. It's done. My word to you is, get ready. You're going to have an encounter this week to help someone else discover Manasseh and Ephraim. They need help to know they can forget. There are people reliving things they went through 40, 50, and 60 years ago. They're still replaying it in the video or the DVD or whatever it is, podcast of their mind right now. They're seeing it all over. When we were in Sierra Leone and hearing those people in the amputee camps, our people were so overwhelmed with grief and crying. And in that war of 11 years of civil war there, and we were in that country twice during the war, the thing they did, which was quite different than any other country, was they chopped the arms and legs off people as well as little babies and children. It was one of the most horrible things that you could imagine. People in rural areas having that happen to them without medical treatment, or so many of them died just from the infections and the wounds related to it. But in amputee camps where some survived, our people were there, and as they came in, they were just overwhelmed by the immensity of looking at that and the age of little children that had suffered that, and men and women, all types. And they said, don't cry. These are the Sierra Leone people. Don't cry. We have forgiven those people, and we're going on with our lives. And thank God for a mission organization that was there